My name is Susan Albershardt, and I am a course director here in the creative writing program. And I'm hosting the session. It's called Government Essentials for Filmmakers. Is that not a sexy title or what? Right? Okay, so please put your hands together and help me welcome Sheena Fowler. She is the director of the Film and Digital Media Office at the Metro Orlando Economic Development Commission, and she is a Full Sail graduate.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have so much that we can talk to you about tonight. And how many people in here are filmmakers, actual filmmakers? Okay. Yeah? How many people make video games? There's one. Okay. What about any other kind of digital media? There's one over there. Okay. Let's see. What else could we ask?
We've got mobile apps.
Oh, mobile apps. Any of those people in here?
Interactive websites, music videos.
Yeah, commercials, all that stuff. Well, we're here to tell you about how not only the local film and digital media office can help you, but also how the state film office can help you, and also the federal government. And by when I say help, tell us about the ways that you can help us, and then we'll work our way up to the feds, okay?
Well, certainly there are film commissions all across the world. So if you go to afci.org, that is the Association of Film Commissioners International, and there's a list of film commissions across the globe. So let's say you want to film in Peru. You go to their website, click on Peru, and it's going to give you the name of the film commissioner. Film commissioners are set up in locations to make sure that you have all of the resources you need to be able to properly work within that community. So on the very basic level, specifically for our office, we do everything from location scouting with you. We have a location database on our website, filmorlando.com. So we've got listings in there of places that you can look at. Some are examples, some are real places. We walk you through tons of pictures.
Tons of pictures.
We've got the film book online on our website, and that is a listing of crew and vendors in the area. And what's unique about ours is that we qualify it. So we make you apply and make sure that you are current in that role. We do the best we can to keep it absolutely current, but people really appreciate that. Producers that are coming in from out of town don't want to just look at a list that anyone can sign up in any category. They like the fact that ours has been vetted. So when you go to look for a DP, it's an actual DP, not someone who has done one project and hasn't had the caliber of work that is required for the work that they're looking for. So we push that out to different studios, producers, everywhere where we have a relationship with, and then anyone who will take a look at it to make sure that they see all the talent that we have in the Orlando region. So everything, we're looking at crew, we're looking at locations. We also manage the entire permitting process. And Orlando is a little unique in the state of Florida. We have a 4-county region. So we're Orange, Lake, Seminole, and Osceola County, and every jurisdiction in between. So if there's anywhere in this region that you need a permit for, and you need a permit anytime you're touching public property, and that's even if you're filming in a private home, but you're going to be parking in the street. Same thing applies when you have a house party, and there's too many people parked in the street, and people can't get by, and it's too loud late at night. You're going to get the cops called on you. Permitting allows you to make sure that everything is in place in advance so that you don't have any disruptions during filming. And that's really the heart of what film commissions are set up to do. They're here to make sure that you have all the resources you need, you know the rules of the community, so that you don't have any disruptions. There are 1,001 things to do when you're making a project. Let us handle all the things that you don't have to worry about, and that way we can work together and make the best project possible.
I've heard that it's really not a party until the cops come. I'm sorry. Had to say that. Okay, so that is awesome. And the thing is that what's unique about Central Florida over a lot of other film offices, and especially down in Miami, but I didn't say Miami. Don't quote me on that. But I know it's true. They charge for a permit. So in Orlando, you don't.
No, we do not have any permitting fees that come out of our office.
Right.
There are a few communities that do have a fee associated with them. Those are listed on our website, and like I said, they're few and far in between. So that's why it's always a good idea to check with your local film office. We always encourage people to give us a call. There's no question, big or small. Let us know what you're looking at, and we can help you navigate it. So if there is a location that you have your heart set on, but it happens to have a fee associated with that community, there's probably another one that we can match you for that doesn't have a fee associated with it. So you can put those funds towards other things in your projects. But I've had location managers who are our best friends at the Film Commission, who've worked here for 30 plus years, and they go and they shoot a project in LA, or they shoot a project in other communities, and they come back and give me a hug, because it's not always an easy process. It's sometimes very time-consuming, sometimes very expensive, and our office has a very long history of making this very simple for you. Films and television series, and especially commercials, come back year after year simply for the fact that the office has a long reputation of being customer service friendly. We make sure that you've got everything that you need. But regardless of what community you're in, whether it's, small town or big city, check in with your film office if you're going to be shooting there, because there really isn't any real thing as guerrilla filmmaking. I think it's hilarious when people come up to me and say, oh, but we're doing it guerrilla, we're not going to permit. I've permitted tons of guerrilla campaigns. It doesn't matter. I've permitted iPhone campaigns. It doesn't matter what you're doing, how you're filming it, what the style of it is. Do you want to get shut down or do you not? And if you talk to your film office first, you're protected, so you don't have to worry about that, and you can focus on the real stuff.
And another great thing is that when you are in touch with them, they know where you are, what you're supposed to be doing, how long you're there, how many vehicles you have, that type of thing. And they can smooth it over with the police department. And a lot of times you might have to pay to have police on your set to close streets down or to do rolling stops and things like that. But if the film office puts in a good word for you sometimes and says, we really want this project in our community, then sometimes the police, they find time to help you without charging, right?
No.
Oh, sorry.
That is the one thing we can't waive.
Right.
It is a police union issue.
Yeah.
If you have a friend that's in the police office, they still can't help you legally.
So how much
we
does
have
it
tried
cost
around that
to have a cop?
In the city of Orlando, it's $39. In Orange County, it's $44. And everything really fluctuates around those two numbers within our 4-county region.
Yeah.
So, and it is per hour with a minimum of 4 hours. And that's another reason why we don't want to charge out of our office, because we know there's some of those expenses. The other thing that you just can't get around, no negotiations, is insurance.
Right.
You really don't want to do anything without insurance. If something can go wrong on a film set, it probably will. Somebody can sprain their ankle, you can break equipment. If you don't have insurance, you are spending twice, triple the amount of what that insurance policy was going to cost you. And there's some communities, Orange County included, that do not let you film without insurance, period. And that's really a new trend that's kind of sweeping across the country, because they know that these policies are available, they're not terribly expensive, and it's just a standard. So we want to make sure that you're focusing on paying your officers and getting your insurance and doing a production safe. There are far too many examples of things gone wrong with productions recently in the last several years, where you just don't want to take that chance. It's not worth it. People can get hurt, people can die. For a film, it's not possible, and there's very easy steps to make sure that you're not in that boat.
Right. That was in the news recently.
Yeah.
Really horrible. So, okay, so let me ask you this. If they had a crew that they needed to house in a hotel, could you maybe put in a word with somebody to get them a discount?
Absolutely. Depending on the time of year, we're always happy to work with our hotels. We keep a very good relationship with them. Orlando's a really unique situation in the fact that we have so many people coming to stay in our hotels. If you want to stay near the theme parks during spring break, there's very little that I can do for you. If you have some flexibility, then we can work something out. And our hotels trust our relationship. So,
Okay, so can you guys hear me? Sorry, I messed around with that. What about closing city and county roads? How hard is that?
oh, it's so easy. It's really quite simple when you work with our office. It's really a matter of paying the officers and having enough time. Our policy for the Orlando region is a 5 business day turnaround. We are at the mercy of working with the local jurisdictions. So, for example, Sanford is closed on Fridays. Fridays does not count as a business day anymore for them. So if you're going to film there, you need to make sure you get it in the Friday prior if you're going to film over the weekend, because they need that 5 business days to run it through all of the departments. So that's your biggest hurdle, 5 business days. The rest, we handle. As long as you can pay your officers and as long as you have insurance, we can shut down a road, we can work with you. I have incredible relationships with the communities here, and really film commissions are at the mercy of their jurisdictions. If a city or a county does not want to participate in a film, they can find every excuse not to. We've got great relationships here, and they trust this industry. They know it's a vital industry to the community. So when we say that we need this closed, they're going to work with us. And if it's something, that this particular road can't be closed during these hours, they're always really amazing to suggest something else. And let's try a different road where you're going to have a better filming experience. And really, we work together to make sure that's what you have, is the best filming experience possible.
Awesome. Okay, so I hope some of my students are here. I don't know if any are online, but in my former life, before I got my dream job teaching in the creative writing department here at Full Sail, I was the state film commissioner, and I worked at a state level doing what Sheena does, only for the whole state as opposed to just the Central Florida area. And my number one job was to try to create jobs for filmmakers here in Florida. I have a feeling that's your number one job, too.
Yeah, we really do, and that's why digital media came under our wheelhouse as well. We're housed in the Economic Development Commission. So the mission there is to create high-wage, high-value jobs. And filmmaking and digital media clearly create some high-wage, high-value jobs for the region. We have incredible education facilities where we're graduating students like you all into opportunities here. So we really want to make sure that the companies have the resources to be able to hire. One of the things that we work with the state office quite a bit on is a state tax incentive that seems to have swept the industry in the last 10 years. When I first started in the Film Commission 5 years ago, state tax incentives were not a priority. It was something that some states had, and they were in places where you really didn't want to go anyway, so they had to incentivize the project to just get something there. Florida and California didn't really need them because we have this industry. We've a 30-plus year history with it. We have fantastic year-round filming capabilities and a variety of locations, and that really, those were the keys to making sure that you had a production community. And until a few years ago, every state started to see that they could court this industry and how valuable it was. When a production moves into town, they're dropping economic development not only into paying locals, but also going to dry cleaners, grocery stores, gas stations, working with the local police service. It's really an amazing way to influx a large amount of money into a local economy. You can close down restaurants for a day. In some small towns, that one production, that one day that they paid for, makes their whole year. Mm-hmm. So it's an amazing way to not have to drain the resources of a community, but just enhance them with economic input from a production coming into town. So the state of Florida finally got on board with a state tax incentive. Most recently was really aggressive in 2010 with a package that was $242 million.
Right, that was it's a tax rebate, though.
Credit.
Right. It's different than the sales tax exemption, which all of you still can get to this day. As long as you have a qualified production company, you can get sales tax exempted from anything that you buy that has to do with running your production. And that includes digital media projects too. So all you really have to do is go out there, create your company, and get the exemption. They'll give you a piece of paper that says you're sales tax exempt. you could go buy a new computer, a new camera, new lighting equipment, film stock, anything that you want to buy. You don't have to pay that 7% sales tax on it. And if you want to do that, you can actually go to the Film in Florida website and look under incentives, and they will take you to the department who issues those certificates, okay? So that's something that you can still do today. What Sheena is talking about is a larger tax rebate that has been funded. Actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but it started out as a financial incentive back in 2003, and I was able to get that passed into law. And while I was a film commissioner, I actually got it funded like 3 years in a row. And then they said, no, we use it in one day, and we need a tax rebate. So they changed it, which was great. They changed it. And I think it was Charlie Crist was the governor at the time, right?
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, he was the one that really got behind it, as well as the senator and the representative that were sponsoring the bill. And one of which has passed away since
Don
then.
Davis.
Don Davis, what a sweet man he was. Oh my gosh.
He did wonders for making sure that this industry had a voice in our state capital.
Oh yeah, rest his soul. He supported the film industry so much. Anyway, so it was really exciting when they got that much money, because believe me, I think the most I got was $10 million. So
it went from 2 to 5 to 10 to 7, back down to 2. It floated around. So that's why I say in 2010.
But then they changed it from an actual financial incentive to an actual tax rebate. Does anybody know how tax rebates work? Because other states offer them too. You know, I know we're talking about Florida here, but other states do offer tax rebates. Hate to send you out of Florida because I'm a total Florida girl. But you can find them. And a lot of films, when they're doing their budgeting, will budget for 5 different states, you know, and to see, okay, well, if you do it in Georgia, we're going to get this much, but we have to pay for that, da-da-da-da. Have you guys been doing that with your budgets at all? Have you learned to do that? Yeah, because that's how the big boys do it. So, and you basically go to wherever you're going to get the most incentive. We're crossing our fingers, though, that Florida's going to get refunded again. It means that everything to our industry in Florida, to get this amount of money, it goes into a bucket just for its film, commercials, television, video games.
Interactive websites, commercials, music videos qualify.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty much anything you can shoot with a camera, and or any motion, really, any motion at all.
And so it really, you know, once you start working with the state government, you really do have to remember there's a lot of things that they have to process. So this incentive is a longer term turnaround than the sales tax exemption, which actually is a pretty quick process. This one, you're going to have to provide all sorts of things in advance. The state of Florida's is one of the most conservative programs out there. We think that's a positive for the state taxpayer, so it can continue to be part of our economy. We did run out of money 2 years ago. So we've had projects that have been in line, that have been going through and receiving those funds as other projects fall out. But it has become a very large part of my job to make sure that our state capital understands the value of this industry and how it works. Because it's very simple to get caught up in some of the headlines against us, or Hollywood handout.
Hollywood what?
Handout.
Oh.
I know. So the way our program works is it really supports the local infrastructure. It supports local hires. It supports local expenditures. So to qualify for our program, there's very strict requirements in which you have to have proof of financing. If you're a television series, you have to show that you've got distribution already. The commercials is the only one that you apply for on the back end. Everything else you apply for in advance. And then you go and you hire your locals and you spend your money, and the state of Florida is only going to give you money back on your Florida hires and your Florida expenditures. And that's why it's the best way for a state. And a lot of other states are starting to look at the way that our program is functioning, because they see the fact that we haven't, even without ample funding, we haven't fallen off the planet completely. We still have some amazing projects that have come through. We had some amazing television over the last several years, and our commercial industry is still incredibly strong. So they're seeing that you don't have to throw everything out. You have to make sure that you're incentivizing the right things for a state. But it is a process that I can walk you through, that your state office can walk you through. And that's another reason to have a good relationship with your local film commission, because you can ask these questions and make sure you have all the right tools in advance so you're not wasting your time.
So another thing that the state film office does is they can help you when you need to shoot on state property. And that's all of the state parks. And we have some of the most beautiful state parks in the United States here. Also, prisons, roads, state buildings, all of that stuff. And the state of Florida doesn't charge a permit for those types of things either. I got a funny story. I know we're not supposed to tell stories, but this is too funny. I had a call from a young filmmaker. I can't even remember his name. And he needed help because he wanted to get into one of the state prisons to interview one of the inmates in the state prison. And he asked me if there was any way that I could get him permission to go into the state prison. And it just so happened that the night before, I had had dinner sitting right next to the head of the prisons, the prison commissioner. I don't even know what their title is. And he and I had a really nice conversation over dinner, and I got to know him a little bit. So I told this filmmaker, I said, sure, let me give the guy a call. I know him. And so I called him up, and I said, yeah, I got a young filmmaker. He wants to go into the state prison to interview some inmate. And he said, well, what's the guy's name? And I told him. And he goes, what's the name of the movie? And I said, it's called Cocaine Cowboys. It's about some drug dealer. So anyway, they got him into the prison, and he did these long, in-depth interviews with this drug dealer, and the movie came out, and it's called Cocaine Cowboys. I get a special thanks at the end of the movie, I want you to know. And I didn't even know that until one of my students told me about it. He goes, yeah, I was watching that movie last night. You got a special thanks. I'm like, going, you're kidding. So you got to, had to tell that story. But anyway, those are the types of things that film commissioners can do for you. Because they can make that phone call that's going to get you entrance into wherever you can't get to because you're just a filmmaker that is going to cost them, time and energy to deal with you.
And when you're filming in Orlando, and when I say Orlando, it's the 4-county region, we work with our state parks too. Mm-hmm. You really just want to make sure you give us a call because we talk to them every day, mm-hmm. And you don't know them yet. Mm-hmm. So let us be your best friend and make that introduction for you and put in the good mm-hmm. word. And it helps in advance.
Yeah, they legitimize the filmmaker for these people. They say, no, this is the real deal. It's not some fly-by-night crew out there. The thing you're going to really need help with is when you ever shoot on water, any of the waterways, because we have these things called manatees that are protected. You can't go down on any waterway with manatees in it without getting permitted by the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We also have turtles that are protected. You have to be careful with them too, not only at the ocean, mm-hmm. but also on land. These turtles are protected. And also there's birds too. Some mm-hmm. birds you can't, shoot where there's birds that are endangered. So anyway, Sheena's office can help you with that. They can tell you, okay, this is what you need to do, and they'll put in a good word for you.
And you never really want to forget, while you're here, you're not going to get access to something this cool when you go into the workforce. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get access to something this cool. Having access to the backlot here, you really want to take advantage of it while you have it. I know sometimes you're like, oh, I want to get off campus. There's hoops once you get off campus. There's hoops here too, but you have an incredible asset with the backlot here. You also have an incredible asset with the school here in the fact that there's more departments than just film. And if you take a look at any film project, commercial, feature, television series, it's not just film. There's music, there's credits, there's graphic arts, there's usually a website, there's usually a mobile app, sometimes they're animation. So while you're here, you really want to make sure that you're communicating with some of the other schools as well and building those relationships. Since I'm a graduate, I still call some of my colleagues from when I knew in school to ask for favors and ask for advice, and we communicate. And it's amazing how they still work out. And the fact that we worked together and did a project, and we weren't in the same school here at Full Sail, but we were able to work together while we were enrolled here. And those friendships can last a lifetime if you want them to. So take advantage of the fact that you have incredible professors with experience. I mean, Susan here is a wealth of knowledge from her professional career that she still works on. Talk to your instructors, shoot on your backlot, talk to the other classes, the other, the music department, the interactive department. It's incredible the access that you have here, and just don't waste the time because it goes by really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to tell you about is not only does the local office here in Orlando have this production directory for people that are working in the industry, but almost every single film office has one on their website.
A lot of them do, yeah.
Yeah, and I know the state has one too, and it's absolutely free to get into these production directories. And I know that when a lot of people come here to shoot from outside of the state and they're looking to crew up, they do go through this production directory, and they'll see, okay, I've worked with him, or I've worked with him, and they'll just say, okay, they'll start making phone calls to see who's available to work. So you want to make sure you get into these directories, especially if you're going to stay here in Florida. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about federal government and how they might help you. Now, I was really disappointed to learn from Sheena right before we came on today that there is no more federal tax. It's not a deduction. It's a way you can, when you make a movie in 1 year, they used to be able to amortize it. Deduct it all within that year, which was really, really helpful because you could deduct the negative cost of your film in that year, the same year. Well, they're not doing that anymore. Darn. So that just went away. We'll try to get it back. I don't know if Obama's going to do anything. Maybe it's going to be up to our next president. I'm not really sure.
One of the things that a lot of film commissions, because there's not that many film commissions if you look at the population of the world versus film commissions, that we don't have a United States film commissioner.
No.
We have individual state film commissioners.
Right.
We have associations like the Motion Picture Association of America.
We have lobbyists.
But we don't have a United States film commissioner.
No.
Whereas a lot of other countries have gotten involved and
Right.
started investing in that. So that's something perhaps we'll see.
Right.
Since this is an incredible export
Right.
for the United States.
But the Motion Picture Association of America, which is, I know, a bad word for some of you guys because, they're all behind the SOPA PIPA laws, which you guys hated, I know. But they do lobby our federal government on behalf of the motion picture industry, and they're all about supporting job creation too. The MPAA is.
The MPAA is helping with our state initiative here.
Yeah.
In Florida.
Well, they've got those high-powered lobbyists. They all
it's
were
amazing when you
ex-senators
start work
and stuff.
together.
Yeah. But they also protect creativity through the copyright laws. They also preserve our free speech. I don't know if you guys were familiar with the Charlie.
The Hays Code.
No, the Charlie. What is it called? Charlie Depco. What is it? Oh, huh? Yes, Charlie, the French magazine. That's the things that the MPAA does here in the United States is make sure that we have freedom of speech within our films and what we're making here. And also ensuring access to global markets too, which is a big one, because we want to make sure that big countries like China allow our creative content into their market. And right now, it's limited. And I know that the MPAA is working on that really hard to try to get it. Because just imagine if we could export our film and our television and all of our creative content to China without the limitations that they put on us right now. So Anyway, can you think of anything else we left out?
I think the important thing to remember is that, we're approachable. Most film commissions, you should give them a call while you're in town. Have a phone conversation, see if you can stop in and have a cup of coffee and chat about what you want. This industry really is incredible in a couple ways, in the fact that it's still based on apprenticeship. So you still start at the ground up, and if you have the work ethic and you can work well with others and you can make sure you don't mouth off when everything in your body says you want to mouth off because you're tired, you're exhausted, they're asking you to do something ridiculous. But if you just accept the fact that this is the industry, you're going to work really hard, and this is not an industry for glamour. This is an incredibly hardworking industry. Long hours, as you know from your class schedules, they're not faking it. I've done permitting, which is, I'm on the government side of this and the marketing side of this. I'm probably in the most boring side of the film industry that you could get. But I still work at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I've redirected traffic at 5 a.m. It doesn't matter. This industry works around the clock. So you're going to be tired. You're going to have stressed relationships. And if you start to learn how to communicate effectively, and you've got that passion to keep working, and you catch up on your sleep when you can in between jobs, you're going to do fine, because the apprenticeship of the entire industry is going to train you. It's about making good impressions and working hard. And when you go to crew up, line producers don't always reinvent the wheel. They're going to hire somebody that they had a good experience with on the last project. So if you're a total jerk on a project, don't expect to get hired again unless you're absolutely brilliant. And there's even times when you're absolutely brilliant where they're like, it's really not worth the trouble, because you have to work together under high pressure. And so you want to make sure that you have good relationships when you're on set. That goes with your teachers here. Same thing. I got my start in the Orlando market by talking to my teachers. They brought me onto set, and next thing you know, I haven't stopped working here. My intention was never to stay in Florida, never to stay in Orlando, and I just haven't had the opportunity to not work in this industry yet. And it was based on the people that I met. It was based on networking, communicating, having a good work ethic. So you can come in, being a PA and working in the production office, but let's say you really have your eye on camera, you start to get to know the cam ops. You start to, see if you can help them out in some way. And you know what? They're going to bring you on if you've got the right attitude and you've got the right skills. This is an opportunity in this industry to really make your dreams come true if you work hard enough. And there's a lot of other industries where that's just not even possible, where there's doors shut because you don't have the right credentials. This is an industry that you just have to make sure you're talking to people and communicating and absorbing what they're going to share with you. And I've found along my way in what's supposed to be such a cutthroat industry, people are really nice if you are willing to work hard. Mm-hmm. If you're a jerk, they're going to be a jerk back. And it's going to be quick. I've had some of the worst insults in my entire life from people that I worked with. But you know what? They came back. They said, I'm sorry. I was really stressed. Can we start over? And 9 times out of 10, that's going to work. So I think that's what you want to remember is continue to network, continue to keep good communication with people that you've worked with, because you never know when somebody's not going to be able to take a gig, and they're going to say, oh, okay, well, who do you know? Is there someone you know that you would recommend? Because it really is who you worked with, who has that positive experience. Very rarely do we see somebody get picked just because they have a pretty resume. That's not how this industry works. It works off of who do you know?
That is so true. I tell my students that all the time. They learn networking. It's drilled into them from the day they come in here to Full Sail, isn't it? Yeah, it's who you know and who's your friend. Another thing I wanted to tell you about that you might not know is that the state of Florida actually has a film liaison in Los Angeles. Her name is Susan Sims. She's been a friend of mine for about 30 years, and she's been working for the film office. And it is her job to schmooze and hold people's hands out in LA to make sure that their projects are coming here. And she's done a fabulous job with it over the years. And she can help you too. If you know you've got a big project that you need some help on, she can actually help you navigate those waters too. One of the projects that is going to air this weekend is called Bloodline. Have you guys heard of it? It's going to be on Netflix. It was shot down in the Keys. So that's really an exciting project too that you know Susan was responsible in getting here, as well as the film commissioner down in the Keys. So anyway,
and on that, on Bloodline, one of the great things about Florida, and I can't speak to other states on this, but I know for Florida, our crews are really mobile. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of Orlando crew that's working on Bloodline. Mm-hmm. When we had Rock of Ages, I remember I sent we used to publish the film book as a physical thing. I sent them a stack of books, you know, and they hired a ton of Florida crew. So when you're here, don't think just because Orlando hasn't gotten the biggest, sexiest projects in the last couple of years, our crew and our workforce is working on all these projects around the state. And a lot of the infrastructure, the production houses, you know, we have the Universal backlot, we have the Universal stages. Chapman Leonard has a stage here and offices here. Hollywood Rentals, there's some big presence here that really work with the rest of the state as a whole. So as you're working here, you're in school here, it is a good idea to get to know people here, because even if you don't necessarily think that Orlando is the place for you, and I understand it's a perception issue, if you live here long and, you know, if you start to look at the reality of Orlando, you're going to see it's changed. It's not just the tourist destination. There's a lot that you don't know about it yet, a lot for the local. But there's opportunities outside of our city boundaries, even being a resident here. A lot of people work as locals in Clearwater. Dolphin Tale 1 and 2 was a big project that hired a lot of locals. We've had lots of them over the last several years, and the crews really do work together around the state.
Oh yeah, and they, believe me, when they know there's a movie coming, they're all jockeying for a position on it, you know. And if you're part of the in crowd, they're going to make sure that you know about it so that you can get in on the ground floor too. Okay, so at this time we have a few minutes for questions from our audience. If you have a question for us, please raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. For those of you who are joining us online, please direct your questions to our online moderator, who will try to accommodate any questions you have. So bring them on.
Hi there, my name's Dan. Let me see.
Oh, Dan. Hey, Dan.
Hi there, I'm Dan. You were talking about the production directory that you have, that you actually, I guess, screen the applicants. What is the process of that?
So everything is online. We use a service called Real Crew, which a lot of the film commissions across the United States are using these days. So you need to have at least 2 or 3 professional crew sheets to apply, and then references. If you have a business, we need to see the business license, that sort of thing. And so that's what we're going to check on. And we have a committee that reviews it to make sure that it is a valid call sheet. So never throw away your call sheets, by the way. I think that's something I always forget to tell people. I threw most of mine away, and I wish I had kept them, because it is really your record. IMDb does not count. Yeah. It just doesn't.
And you forget, too. You forget what you've done over the years.
Yeah.
It's like, what did I do? What was the name of that episode? You know.
So hold on to those call sheets, because especially, you know, if somebody's going to verify, that's really our proof of record. And then it takes a few weeks to get you into the system. We do have the production assistant category open to apply without professional call sheets, because that's where we want to make sure those who are trying to get into the industry have the opportunity to not have a boundary. So you can apply as a production assistant without any professional jobs under your belt.
I actually do have like a couple of years experience as a grip.
Great.
I think my best thing of call sheets would be my emails telling me what time to come in from the producer. Does something like that count? Or
You know, it depends. If it's something that we can verify, then certainly.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, a majority of the answers are going to be, give us a call.
Yeah. Maybe the producer could write you a reference or something, you know, something like that. Just say, yeah, he was part of our grip crew.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rafael Veloz. I have a quick question. I wrote it down. Okay. Do you have contacts with, legal affair departments, law firms for the entertainment industry, things like that?
Yeah, of course.
Where can I find them?
filmorlando.com.
That's-
In that same book,
Okay.
which is now a website, you can search for them. We've got plenty of attorneys. That's where you can look up places to get your insurance. There's massage therapists in there. I think we have acupuncturists in there. You never know what's going to be required on a film set. So if people want to work in film, we make sure if they're accredited, they can get in, because we have a lot of different things that you're going to need. So check it out. If there isn't something that you find, always give us a call and we can help you out. You're welcome.
Hi, my name's Roy. I was just wondering how difficult it is to, say, get permits for abandoned buildings like hospitals and factories and stuff like that.
Okay, that's a fun one. So that really comes down to where it is in the legal process. If it's in foreclosure, now you're gonna have to find the bank who owns it. So in my position, that's kind of fun. We like these puzzles. We're not going to do all of that work for you. Let me start with that. There's a lot of things that we can help you with, and some things you've got to help us with. So in a foreclosed property, you've got to find the bank who owns the property. With abandoned hospitals, sometimes that's where we can really come in and help, because that's city or county affiliated. I have been trying to get our region to not tear down abandoned buildings so that I can use them. There's actually, To Write Love on Her Arms came out this month, and if you saw it, that was partially filmed in a school that isn't used as a school anymore. They use the gym primarily and the athletic fields, and the rest of it is an abandoned school that I worked with. And
They shot some of it here at Full Sail.
They did shoot a lot of it here at Full Sail. So it was, I love an abandoned building because you're not having to offset somebody. So it really depends on where it is in the legal process. Like, we have an abandoned home in Lake County, and for years you just couldn't get access to it. They finally got to a place in the legal process in which, and we hounded them enough, that they are open to filming now. So it really depends on where it is, but give us a call and we'll help you navigate that process.
Next questions are coming from online.
Great. This question is from YouTube. This is from Sabrea Delancey, and she says, what if ASCI is not in the area you're planning on filming in?
So the Association of Film Commissioners International, sometimes people don't register. Most film commissions are registered there. If there isn't one and you're not finding it just searching via the internet, you're gonna have to call your local county or city hall. Sometimes
Or the EDC.
or the Economic Development Commission. Most of them are in city or county offices and tourism offices. Sometimes they're in economic development offices. Sometimes they're in sports commissions. So it really depends. But if you call your city or county hall, you can actually talk to somebody and they can point you in the right direction.
And believe me, if they think you're going to spend money in their city, they're going to help you.
And this next one is also from YouTube. They want to know, this is from MJ Brewer. Do you have to have insurance for a short, or is that only for feature presentations? Is the insurance an all-inclusive price, or is it by project?
It depends.
Hi, MJ.
Insurance is something that it doesn't matter if this is a 30-second project, a 5-second project, commercial music video feature, indie, does not matter. If you're shooting something, there's something that can go wrong, somebody can get hurt, equipment can be broken. So insurance is required in our region always, period, no exceptions. Now, similar to car insurance, you have the ability to shop it around, talk to different agents, depending on your equipment, depending on the content of your production, it can vary. I always suggest, this is something that I did when I was in school here, if you know you're stuck here for an X amount of time, you should be shooting projects anytime you have free time, which I get is limited, but you can do it. Everybody chip in. You've got a group of people that you trust. Chip in for an annual policy, because it's a lot less over the year than it is for short-term. But certainly short-term policies are available. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of jurisdictions have very strict requirements for it. So you want to make sure that you're looking for that in advance, because we see that's something that holds up the process. If you think you can get away with it, 9 times out of 10 you can't.
Plus, it protects you. You know,
Yeah.
you never know what's going to go wrong, and you could ruin the rest of your life because somebody's going to sue you because somebody got hurt and it's your fault. So with the insurance, at least you have some amount of the protection.
Hi, my name is Ricky Nix. I just wanted to thank you first and foremost for coming out here and talking to us. I have a feeling I know the answer to this question before I ask it, but here goes. I'm assuming you also know people you can reach out to for like low budget indie shoots to help out with the cost of food, like maybe local eateries and restaurants to like help feed cast and crew. Like, do you know?
Yeah, the way that works is that that's really on the producer. That is where, and trust me, I've been there. I've begged for food. I've begged for donations. I've done it. So that's really where you're going to need to step in and start doing your research. And that's why projects don't come quickly. You want to have time to have that prepared in advance. Certainly, if you have a question about a specific place, we can tell you whether or not they're film friendly or whether they've done any work that we know of in advance. But really, that's on the producer, on the team that you assemble to make sure that somebody can do that. But a lot of my independent projects, I often had donations from local companies that were happy to help.
Sometimes it's stale food, but it's better than nothing, right?
This is at the end of the day, it is a business, and that's what you have to remember, that there are certain costs. If there wasn't any costs associated with it, then a lot more people would do it. But it's tough. It's a tough game. But the more you work and the more you get under your belt, the more experience you have, the easier it's going to be. So don't let a few rejections shut you down. Keep trying, try a different way, talk to people, oh, you had experience there, and you know, the more advance notice, the better. There's a lot of mostly students that give us a call and say, I want to film tomorrow. I need a permit. There's not much we can do with tomorrow because half the time your ducks aren't in a row because you're trying to film tomorrow. So you have to make sure that that's what you're here for. You're here to learn the business of it. There's a whole side of it that's artistic as well, but the artistic side doesn't get out without the business side. So you've got to do business correctly.
All right. Hello, my name's Mike, over here. Could you speak about the logistics of working with minors here in Orlando?
Yeah, certainly. That's a state issue. So when you go to filminflorida.com, there is a great resource for you there to work with the state agency for minors. You just have to talk to them and they'll walk you through the paperwork. Again, anytime that you're going to do something with a state agency, make sure you have some advance notice. But we haven't really had any issues with it not taking place. It's just a matter of calling the state agency. There's also a link on my website, filmorlando.com, in the questions section that'll direct you to that website for the state agency. And same thing goes for animals.
Yeah. When you use kids, you really have to follow the rules, too. No cutting corners, ever.
Howdy. I just had a question. You said that you had to pay the police officers for coming by.
Yes.
What about if you want firefighters or EMTs or even militaries and military personnel with their guns or something?
Let me ask you a question. Are you having them come out to be background or cast members?
Like background, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much just background.
It depends. Some jurisdictions will not allow their officers in uniform on camera. So you're not going to be able to just pay them to show up. They're being paid to protect an area, to do traffic control. There's a variety of security, a variety of things that they're going to be there for. Most of the jurisdictions are not going to allow the uniforms on camera. But there are a lot of, I did several projects when I was in school here that had to do with police and fire. There's lots of opportunities. Look for training schools. They'll often work with you on getting some uniforms, and they're going to be really accurate. And they'll hopefully cut you a deal, if not donate them for the project. So look at some other options. It's not always the face value of it. Some jurisdictions have done it, but most of the experience that I have, it doesn't matter how big or small or flashy the project is. It's just something that they don't do.
Okay, but how about like with the weapons?
Weapons, you have to have an officer no matter what. And that's just, I don't care if it's a water gun. If you're gonna have a weapon in public property, you're gonna have to permit, and you're gonna have an officer on site to do a safety check. There are too many horrible examples where people tried to get around this and somebody got hurt. There's a great example within the last 5 years of a student project that went out, and they were, I don't know, there's a lot of student projects that have mafia in it, or guns, and it's one of the harder things to do. But they were shooting a scene, and they all had machetes, or that's the big gun that you have, and they were running around a property that wasn't near anything. They thought they were totally fine because they were kind of in an isolated place. Well, somebody drove by, obviously freaked them out. They called the cops, and within 5 minutes, they had a real gun, and they were on the ground and had to go through the whole process of that. Now, if they had called us, we could have permitted it really quickly. They could have paid for an officer. Trust me, it was well worth it if they had taken the time in advance and pay that very small fee instead of getting caught and getting a gun to your head. And I guarantee you there were some really embarrassing stories that were associated with that. So we make it pretty simple for you when you work with our office to make sure that you have those resources, and we walk you through the process. One of the things I consistently get compliments on from our community is our officers. They know what they're doing. They are always busy doing production work. You have to hire them off duty, so this is something they have to sign up for. So you're not just getting assigned someone who doesn't want to be there. They actually signed up to do it. And they like it. They get a kick out of it. Remember, you have to feed them. Everybody likes crafty. So that's something to keep in mind. You're welcome.
It really saves you a lot of time when you're under the gun trying to get shots done too, to know that they're going to make it easier for you to get the shot.
And if I can just say one thing that I wish I could tell everyone. When you are, let's say you're the location scout, or you're location scouting, whatever, directors and DPs have a tendency to look at the space you're given. So like, let's say this is the area that you permitted for. Directors and DPs will want this space and this space. Even though you took the time to permit this space. If you're gonna apply for a permit, apply for all of it. Do a 360 and say, okay, let's take this, 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 and this. I don't care if you only use this. But if you're there and you're on location and your DP and your director says, I want this, and you didn't do it, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you went ahead and you thought about what could they possibly want the day of, and I don't care if they say no, they don't want it, they're never gonna want it. They will put money down on the fact that they don't want it. The day of, they're gonna want it. I can't tell you how many times that has happened. And the smart location managers permit for way more than they're supposed to because it protects them.
And what about the length of time?
Yeah,
Is it
go over.
Yeah, go way over,
Yeah.
because you will go way over.
There's no such thing if it's only gonna be 2 hours.
Yeah.
We think that's funny, it's not.
Hey there, ladies.
Hi.
My name's Jimmy. My question was, if you were going to do something like an aerial shot,
Yeah.
whether that be from a plane or helicopter or even like skydiving, how does permits kind of play into that?
You have to work with the Federal Aviation Authority. So that's really over my head. But it's not hard. If you're working with a helicopter who's licensed, they'll make sure that you have all the proper filings. On that note, drones are still illegal. I can't permit them. So it's just not something, we're working on it. That's something the MPAA is working on, and they have made strides in it, but it's still not legal to film with a drone. So there's nothing that I can do for permitting that way.
And with helicopters, they're only allowed to fly, so low, especially if there's people underneath them. So you have to be really careful with that.
I think it's 500 feet. They have to be away from something. But we have some amazing aerial photographers here in Orlando that have been doing it for decades. And every time they work on a shoot, it doesn't matter big or small, the producers always come back and say, that's really impressive. So you're in good hands while you're here.
Great. We have another question from YouTube. This is from Sabrea Delancey. She would like to know, what is the process to start to getting some of these types of programs in a state that doesn't have a system in place? Who at the state level would you go to first?
Yes, certainly. I think the first place that I would go would be to the closest film commission, wherever that may be, if that's within the state or a neighboring state. Ideally, it's somebody in the state who can talk to you about how they got it done, how was it fashioned, because there are a lot of opportunities to start when it's not very complicated. You just have to have the right pieces in place to be able to do it. When you're closing down roads and you're working with city and county services and state services, you're really at their mercy. So you can't just open one and without a relationship in advance. So I certainly would start with the closest film commission that you have and start to talk to them. I've actually helped several film commissions start within the state of Florida to make sure that they had all the right resources. What have I done in the past? Film commissions are typically pretty friendly. So I'd start there. If not, then you're going to have to go to the city or the jurisdiction in which you want to open the film commission.
Hi. How did you get into the film commission? Like, how do you start?
How did I start? I met the former film commissioner at a Women in Film and Television Florida networking event. And at the time, she had been in the position, she and Susie Spang, it was Jennifer Pennypacker and Susie Spang, had been in the role for almost 15 years. And they kind of laughed and said, it's a long shot because they love their jobs. And I just kept in touch and I kept networking. And I know it's cheesy to say it happened through a networking event, but it kind of did. I was a student here. I didn't know anyone. I had been working in New York for several years before I came back down here to Full Sail. So just talking to them, and I did the awkward, here's who I'm trying to talk to. They're talking to somebody. I stood there. They're still talking. Okay, they got another drink. All right. Still gonna stand here. You check your phone. It's worth it. It's awkward, but it's worth it. And she saw that I waited, and then she gave me some people to connect with that were in the room. And she saw that I actually went and talked to them. And there were some other students that were there that sat in the corner together with the free cocktail. And she saw those students too. And what do you know? I ended up having her job. She called me because I was getting ready to leave the market. I had an opportunity in Tampa. And she found out and said, no, I think I have an opening for you. And hired me, and I think it was within 2 years I was running the department.
If you guys are not going to the Women in Film and Television networking events here, you should go, because everybody who's anybody in the film industry in Central Florida goes to these events.
And it's not just women.
Yeah, it's men too. I was one of the founding members with Susan Sims and Tammy Stone, 35 years ago, something like that. I mean, it was a long time ago. And it is one of the best ways to network with people in this industry here in Florida. And the events are a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and people ask, why is it Women in Film? Why don't you change it to
Women and Men in
production?
Film?
Yeah, it's part of an international organization.
Yeah.
So Women in Film has chapters in Hong Kong, in LA, and New York. One of the things I did when I was president, I managed to do a dual membership with the New York chapter. So once you're a full member of the Florida chapter, you pay an additional fee, and you're a full member of the New York chapter. Now, the Florida chapter is all volunteer. The New York chapter has like 8 paid employees. So it's a very good deal for Floridians. And I actually have, only the men have taken advantage of it so far. I think I've got one female who's going to do it. But at Cannes every year, Women in Film has a huge event. You can't get in unless you're a member. I've got men who've gone to that event every year. At NAB, sometimes they have a huge event. The men have gone. So if you're a guy, don't be hesitant about joining Women in Film. When I talked to the New York chapter, she was really surprised how many men we do have in our organization. You're not going to be alone. There's, I think, at least 3 men on the board currently. It's just one of the best and most professional networking associations in Orlando.
Right. I totally agree. Nice people.
And if you want to follow along with the legislative stuff, Film Florida is an association, and that's filmflorida.org, that really is making great strides with the legislation, and a lot of the film commissions across the state are part of it. But if you just like them on Facebook, you'll be able to follow along.
Great. We have another question from YouTube. This is from MJ Brewer, and she would like to know, does Florida ever hire people from other states through their GPA as proof, if they have instructor reference letters, and she would like to know if they just, hire people from other states for available positions.
Certainly, you can work in the state of Florida if you are not a Florida resident. What is not applicable is your state tax incentive. So if the project is getting the state tax incentive, and I don't think this will ever change, but the way it's currently set up, you only get money back on Florida residents. So a lot of states are going to that. Georgia still gives a percentage back on out-of-state residents. Louisiana still gives a percentage on out-of-state residents. So there's some states that you can not live in that state and still work, but it really does pay to be a resident with the way that the state tax incentives are working.
Well, thank you so much for attending our session today, everyone. And we especially want to thank our special guest, Sheena Fowler. Isn't she wonderful? So, have a great evening, everybody, and thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.